Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Waffles RC. Today we are getting back on the Baja truck. Yes, I'm going to keep doing that because it's not a truck, it's a car, as you've seen in the last video. If you're new here, I'm making a Baja truck out of a 77 Caprice. You'll see on the thumbnail, obviously, what it looks like. Where did we leave off? Okay, so last time I only did this side. I have done this side, so front shocks are all done, everything's good to go there. One thing that I did notice and knew that I was going to have to do with this thing, because my mud truck does this all the time, under heavy acceleration it likes to twist because it has a lot of leverage, and this thing under heavy acceleration is going to want to go like that. So what are we going to do about it? I'm going to get a sway bar in there, just on the rear, because IFS. So this should hopefully help keep it mostly level while accelerating and going around corners and not just tipping over because I decided to go a little too fast. The kit that I got, I'll put a link down below. I have used it before. I broke it, but that's what happens when you take a mud truck and jump it, basically. Actually, no, it wasn't that. No, I mounted it incorrectly. Yeah, I did bad mounts on it. The Benedict Harry Universal Sway Bar Kit comes with the actual torque bar, the sway bar links, spacers, and all the supporting stuff that you need with it. And it does come with short little end links, which won't work for my particular application. I'm pretty sure that this is meant for like the Rift or something, if I remember correctly. It's like an upgraded version for it. But we are going to adapt it to this. And yes, it is evening time. Had some stuff to do, so I'm gonna get a sway bar on. Hopefully we'll get that done tonight. And then tomorrow we'll really hammer on this thing, because I should have the motor. With a motor means go time, as long as I have a drive shaft that will reach, which I don't think I do, but we might be able to make something temporarily. Let me get a game plan together real quick and I'll bring you back and let you know what my game plan is. Okay, so it took some playing around, but I think I have a good plan for it now. It came with these little itty bitty links, which obviously, as you can see, were not quite long enough for me. Since I have a bucket o' links, I made some new link ends, put the sway bar together. Now, if I hold it here, essentially, find a good center for it. I'll try and do it so you can see it. Have to be down a little bit, but clears inside of the frame rail. Doesn't bind up. What I need mostly is to make sure that when I cut the mounts for it, I do them level, because that's going to be quite important when it comes to, you know, a sway bar. And you know what? I bought these things just as a joke because I thought they would be funny. You'd be surprised at how often these things actually come in quite handy when you're doing a custom build, or any build. When you have to have the wheels off and you're working on stuff on the axle, these little things help. I'll put a link down in the description to an Amazon link for them. They're not very expensive, and I thought they were funny at first, but they work. Like you saw, it's holding this whole thing up. Now I'm going to make some mounts for the sway bar and hope I don't mess up. All right, so that is what I came up with. Just some angle pieces right here. I have them just clamped temporarily. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, you can. There's these little plastic spacers in here. Those need to be there, apparently. I think that's where I went wrong with my other one that I tried. But they are in both sides. Can you see that one? Yep. So now I just need to tack weld that in there. And then I'm going to angle cut these so that they don't look so just like I welded a piece of angle iron onto the bottom of them. But I have them tight as it travels. So does the sway bar. Main thing when you're doing a sway bar, these links right here, you do not want them to ever go perfectly straight, because if they do, then it binds and it can flip or it can just get stuck. So that's why I had to make longer ones, so I didn't have to keep this thing down so far, because I wanted to keep this up higher. But it clears everything. It won't hit the body because the body sits right there. It does everything I want it to do. So let's get to welding. That cools down, let's work on this, because I'm sure you may have just seen, but the motor came for it. For those of you who have never worked with one of these, it's actually, I would say simple, but it's not super simple. So you take this top screw and this bottom screw, take those out. Now this whole piece is what comes out. Don't let this thing flip over, because these gears, yeah, they'll come out as I almost let it fall out. What we need now is pinion gear. This is what goes on the motor, which goes through here and meshes somehow magically into those gears, just like that. If you spin that, I don't know if you can see, but that is how you get your drive out of the back. Put that precariously over there and hope it doesn't fall out. Now I will say this, setting the depth on this thing is quite important, because if you set it too far, you'll hear a lot of noise. If you don't set it far enough, then the gears won't be meshed correctly. So it is a bit of a guessing game, but you will figure it out. You just might have to take it out a couple of times. Luckily, this one has a set screw already in it. So now let's get our motor. So I got the expensive hobby wing, as everybody, or as a few people like to remind me of, but I don't care. I really like this motor. This is the Spectrum Firma 4000 kV brushless motor ESC combo. I think this one's a bit more powerful than the one that's in the mud truck, but I want to test this one out because we're going to build another mud truck here soon. And I want to see how this one does, because if it makes this one just absolutely fly, I'm excited. So this one is a motor, a separate motor, and a separate ESC. Placement of your wires. You're going to want to place these in a way that doesn't obstruct your body that you're putting on. So if I remember how this one was set up correctly, this one, the wires will have to be off to the side. So how do we know orientation of in the transmission with this? You have your mount screws for the motor right here. But in the top, you'll have where the screws that mount this into the transmission, that'll be your top or your bottom, doesn't matter which one. So as you place this and line it up with your holes that are on the motor, you'll just want to make sure that the holes for this mount are up and down. What happened to the screen? All right, don't know what happened there. So you'll just want to make sure that the mounting screws for this mount will go whichever way on the orientation that you want all this to go. You only ever get 2 screws in, so you just kind of look down, see through the holes, see where it's going to mount up, and hope that you're correct. Oh, but first you have to mount this. This is where it gets tricky. I'm sure there's a lot of you out there that know how to do this already. This is for the people that have never done it, so just come along with us on this journey. I think we're going to want it out a little bit further than that. Out right there. Just haphazardly dump all your hardware out. So once again, it's all a guessing game. Just gotta see what will work. So once you guess your depth, you then are going to insert this, once again, precariously into here, while somehow meshing everything up. There you go. That's right. forgot about that. So in here, on this outer ring, there's holes that the screws have to go through. So make sure that's lined up as well. I always forget that. This is the finicky part about this particular transmission, I will admit. There we go. There's that, there's that. Now I know why I don't work at night. There we go. So basically I'm just turning this to see how the mesh is. Well, to see if the depth of that pinion gear is too far or not enough. Because usually the louder it is, it's out too far. And it's a little stiff. So now I have to take it out and figure that out again. So I'll be right back once I get this all figured out. Okay, luckily with this motor set up, the pinion gear just goes all the way down, basically till it bottoms out. And the way I can tell is if I spin this, it's just a little bit quieter. So that's what I was looking for. Usually other times I didn't figure that out until I had actually driven them with the power from the motor, and that usually will tell you, like, do you have it right or do you not have it right? So now once you struggle to get all that, working and together, you think you're in the clear. Nope. Now you have to take it all back apart, because I did everything, got it all meshed, got everything mounted where I wanted it to. Well, now I need to Loctite it. So I have to take it all back apart. Luckily I know where everything is supposed to go. I do this because its screws are going into metal, so you need to have Loctite on them. That includes your set screw. Trust me, put Loctite on your set screw. Don't think you can get away with it just because it's inside of a transmission. It will still back out as well. So I will Loctite all this, and then we will mount it back onto the truck, car, whatever you want to refer to it as. The truck. I don't know. All right, there it is, mounted in there. And as you can see, it clears the top. Body will sit over that just nicely. And my tape measuring skills seem to have improved, because as you can see, this is where the steering servo mounts, and that clears it. And as you can see, we have a rear sway bar. So this is what I was talking about earlier. You never want these to be perfectly in line with each other, especially at full droop like this, because then they could flip and come out, or they can just get jammed, and then you're gonna have all sorts of issues. So, but it's not bound up because I did it at full droop. It was all leveled, everything like that. So it does still allow for some flex, but not nearly as much as it did before. Now, once again, since this is all going into alloy, I'm gonna have to put Loctite on everything to keep it all, from coming out. But now that we have that, I'd say let's get this funny thing out of here. Get a steering servo on there, shall we? Got the steering servo in here. I did hook it up, but I am going to disconnect it again, because once I send power to it, you have to center it, because this servo could not be centered. And then you'll turn it on and it'll just go, and that's gonna be centered. So just a tip, again, always disconnect the steering horn off of the servo when you first power these things up. Now I'm sure some of you are noticing how low that thing is sitting right here. I mean, so just dropping it puts it about right there. One good thing about the Endura shocks, at least these ones that I got, is it came with heavier rate springs. As you can see, the collars are down pretty far trying to put tension on it, and it's still almost bottoming out. But that's because it's getting heavy. But with a heavier rate spring, swap that out, move that collar up, and then we should be good. Don't think the back will need it, but we will certainly find out, because I still have a battery to put in this. I still have the ESC to put in this. And then, the body. but we will get started on that tomorrow morning. I just wanted to make sure that this motor would clear the body and that the steering servo would clear the body. Those will most likely come back out because I'm going to add more metal. Mainly, I want to add at least one bar right here just to get some structure into where the shocks are, because it's going to be taking a beating. Maybe run some from right here down to the frame rail. The back's pretty good, honestly. I think the back will be fine. But it's coming out good so far. So we will see you in the morning and we'll get back on this thing. It's too late to weld. So see you tomorrow. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another day. After I turned the camera off last night, I decided to dig around and see if I had some parts, and I wanted to see if these springs that came with these shocks were a heavy enough weight to be able to handle the weight of this particular build. And come to find out, so I already changed them, they are perfect. So the stiffer springs help this thing sit a lot better. And the eagle-eyed viewer will also notice I found a drive shaft. And it works. So sometimes hoarding parts is a good thing. And by hoarding parts, I mean I hoard parts, because sometimes I order parts and they're not right. So instead of returning them, I keep them. So that way I have extras for instances like this, where I needed a drive shaft. That one was the wrong one for whatever it was for. So I kept it. All 6 of these full of parts. This drawer, also full of parts. That's mostly tools and stuff, but there's a lot of parts in that too. So if you ever question yourself whether you have too many parts or you're hoarding parts or anything like that, just remember, you don't. They're future parts for future builds. They are not parts to be thrown away or anything like that. You gotta keep them, because then you never know when you're gonna need them. So I still have all the stock parts off of the RTR build. Believe it or not, I still have all the parts for that Bronco. Stock axles, housings, absolutely everything stock I still have for that thing. Even the motor, which is blown, but I kept it for some reason. Don't ask me why. I keep all the tires, even though they're mostly torn. So remember to keep some stuff. You never know when it'll come in handy. So now that we have a drive shaft in here and the heavier springs on it, now we get to do the finalization parts, because in this video, hopefully, this will drive. Because all that's really left is mounting a battery and the ESC and a receiver. Let's get to work. Okay, so here's the ESC. I'm going to mount it about right in here, somewhere like that. That way it sticks up a bit, kind of keep it out of the area of drive shafts and stuff like that. So I'm going to take this sheet of metal, I'm going to weld it onto here, but I'm going to do a quick bend on it and have it bend back up. So basically make it a little bowl. So this will mount directly to this along with the receiver. And then I'll have to make something to hold the battery in it. It's still a little warm, but as you can see, I have the plate in here for the ESC and the receiver. You'll notice this plate with some slots in it. That is going to be where the battery lives. I did it like this on purpose so that way I don't have to unscrew the body and all that stuff just to get the battery out. I've made that mistake on a few other ones. I will not do it with this one. So it's just going to go here, Velcro strap on, and then we hope that it stays in there. So now it's my least favorite time of all, and that is soldering on a new connector. Like I've said in the past, I am not good at soldering. I have seen a couple of your guys' suggestions in the comments, so I'm going to give those a try and see if I can't do this a little bit cleaner or better, whichever one. So I'll be back, hopefully not in a few hours, when I get this changed out to work with the rest of the batteries that I have. Yeah, I can't solder. It was a couple hours. All right, well, I have learned many times now over the course of this channel and building that I don't film the first plug-in of everything. 1, because it's boring. 2, because it never goes right. So, and this was no exception. But got the plug soldered on, got the battery under here with Velcro. This will all clear the body, so I'm not concerned about that. Got the power wire in here. I am using the highly coveted Radio Link. It's actually a very good remote. Once you learn how to use it, it's a very good remote. Very responsive. I have no issues with these things. They're just very complicated to program. It's a good remote though, and especially for the price, you can't beat it. Also, obviously, since I'm using the Radio Link transmitter, I have the Radio Link receiver. There's one in there. For anybody who's doing it, since nothing's really labeled, or I'm sure that it might be in this little book that I 100% refuse to read, channel 1 is your steering. Channel 2 is your motor, throttle, just so you know. Because it took me a minute to get used to that, or to realize that, so there's that. But long and short of it is, turn our remote on, get you where you can see it. So the remote is on. It is on 3S, and we have steering. I have not programmed the ESC so far. I'm just leaving it as it is. I did set my endpoints for the steering, and before I turned anything on, I made sure that this was disconnected so that the steering servo was centered. Everything handled there, and now you can go full turns, lock to lock. And then something that works, but something doesn't sound super happy in there. Could take it apart again to try and figure that out, or put it in the driveway and play with it. Alright, well, it worked, but now it's acting like it has a drag brake, so I will have to take it apart and figure it out. And there we have it. Had so much fun, it came apart. Rolled it a bunch of times. Ooh, probably shouldn't have put that wire there, so I will have to fix that. First drives are all basically just testing, seeing if, basically doing proof of concept. Does it work? Does it drive? Does it turn? Or in this one's case, does it do wheelies? And the answer to that would be yes. These tires are hanging in pretty good. They're a bit soft. The shocks definitely need oil in them, but I knew it was going to act like that the whole time. Need to do a final weld on this whole thing to truly get everything dialed in the way that it needs to be, but so far things doing incredible. So other than this shock hitting right here, but once again, alignment, and probably because that upper control arm's not hooked up, so the whole axle's twisted. So, you know, live and learn. But that is going to be it for this week. Next week, we are going to get started on bodywork. Not excited for that. But basically, need to do the bodywork so that, one, that the tire's clear, two, to kind of smooth out the 3D printed. I will try to make a how-to, but it's going to be a whole lot of don't take my word for this kind of thing, because I don't know how to do bodywork. So it's going to be a learning experience for us all. Oh, this transmission, the reason why it was locking up is because, like I've always said on this channel, grease everything very well, like all the gears. So transmission, rear differential, all that stuff. Once I greased it, everything was fine. So yeah, before driving them, grease everything up. It worked really well after that. We'll finalize wiring and all that stuff once the body's done. Everything's just temporary, and I mess it up by rolling it too many times. But we will see you next week when we start attempting, keyword attempting, to do bodywork. So Thank you very much for watching. If you would like some merch that I am not wearing, if you'd like some merch, magically I now have a hat on. We have hats, coffee mugs, beanies, sweaters, a t-shirt. We have a few things, and all of the proceeds from that go straight into builds like this. Anything that you guys get is greatly appreciated. So thank you all very much. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week. Yeah. Bye.